What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Football Chatbox. My name is Ryan, and today we are in a very big podcast. This is the first time I think I'm having a four-person stream, and it's not an end of season as well, I should add. Usually, end of season, I get like the entire panel of Football Chatbox to appear, but this time we have four-person stream. I had to go and create a new overlay as well because like I didn't have like this camera overlays for four people. So I'm joined with my co-host Karan, and I'm also
So,
joined with the FPL Side Net lads, FPL Side Net Pete and FPL Point Break Andrew. How are you both doing as well? Not too bad.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you? How are you? Thanks for having us on.
that awkward silence. I was gonna let Andrew talk first because he's carrying the show this season with
That's
his
it.
moves and his ranks.
The pod's named after you, Pete. I was waiting for you. I was deferring.
Fair enough. And then Karan, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Just getting to the meaty end of the season.
I know,
So,
indeed. Go ahead, go ahead. You gonna say anything else or
no.
Okay,
I
we're
was
gonna
going to
have
say,
a
if anyone hasn't listened to FPL Side Net, these guys are very, very committed to puns as well as fantasy football. So,
movie puns,
highly
especially.
recommend.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So, Karan, we're gonna give you an idea of like everyone's chip strategies, and also, it will give you an idea of where we're coming from. Now, we'll start with the teams, and I will like through each team we'll try and explain like the basic idea of what we're thinking of in terms of current chip plans. So I'll start with mine, and I've got so 85 points from Gaming27. Ariola, Region, Gabriel, Branthwaite, ADB, probably my worst transfer this season. Saka, Foden, Odegaard, Solanke, Haaland, Cap, and Watkins. And on the bench, I've got Dubravka, Garnacho, Pedro Porro, and Doty. Now, I am not really set for a free hit 29, so I'm most likely going. Sorry, I'm not really set to avoid not playing the free hit in 29. So I'm going to be playing it in 29 because I've only got Ariola, Region, Doty, Porro, maybe, and Watkins. So I don't really have any attackers that play in 29 apart from Watkins. So because of that, that was my main reason of like, okay, I'm most likely going to play this instead of taking like a -8 or a -12 or something. And then I will figure 34 out later is what I'm thinking. My initial wildcard plan was maybe 31, but I've been toying with a little bit to see if I could maybe dead end in 34 and wildcard 35 as well, potentially. But I haven't committed to that, and I think I'll know my answer come after the FA Cup results, because if any, let's say, upset happens, for example, I don't know, Newcastle pull out a miracle and beat City, then that City might end up doubling in 34 instead of 37. Like those things could switch. If United by some miracle beat Liverpool, Liverpool won't get the double in 37. United won't double in 34. It'll switch around. Then in those specific situations, maybe wildcarding in 31 might make more sense because you get the best players immediately, and they'll have the double in 34 as well. So I still haven't committed to that in terms of when exactly wildcarding. But for the moment, at least, probably 31. And I think I will make the moves that we make this week as well might have an impact on that as well. Especially, I think when it comes to Pete as well, yours are free hitting in 29. So
Yep.
I guess whatever move you make this week, you ideally want them to be good for 30 as well, ideally.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
All right, so that's my current plans. Andrew, you're up next.
Yeah. Okay. My chip strategy is a little bit different. I've been sort of working pretty much since game week 25. I've been keeping game week 29 in mind. So, I'm pretty committed to playing through game week 29 without using a free hit. So I've got at the moment, I've got both my goalkeepers playing 29. I also have Porro and Powell. Hopefully they're both fit for 29. I've got Bowen, who I brought in last week just before his hat trick, which was extremely lucky. I've got Watkins and Tony. Yeah, so I've figured out that basically I've got 2 free transfers this week, so I'm going to bring in I'm going to probably take a hit this week and bring in 3 players that that are going to play in game week 29 two players are going to play in game week 29, as well as Solanke. And then next week with a -4, I should be able to get to 10 players for game week 29. So, but basically, I'm pretty well committed to wildcarding in 31 because of that. So I mean, one of the key points is like I'm planning on. Well, I've already taken out Haaland this week, and that generates a lot of money, which allows me to have enough money to get Salah in game week 30 after game week 29 blank. But having no Haaland pretty much commits me to a wild card in 31 because I can't really go further than game week 30 without having Haaland. So I'm pretty much locked into that. And then, yeah, in terms of what I'm going to do with the other chips, I'm still not 100% sure whether I'm going to free hit in 34 or 37. And whichever one I free hit in, I'll bench boost in the other one. But I'm actually leaning towards bench boosting in 34 because I like to bench boost as close as possible to the actual playing of the wild card. And I think by game week 37, there can be quite a few unpredictable benchings. Like minutes are a bit less predictable in game week 37. And when you're on a bench boost, obviously you need all of your players to play twice, preferably, if you're doing it in a double. So that's my thoughts at this stage. That's sort of that's the chip strategy I'm working on at the moment.
Fair enough. Yeah, especially like if City double in 37. We've already seen one double of City and we thought we'll get KDB full 90 minutes and then he just ended up getting benched for one. So you never know with City. You bring Ake in thinking he's the best defender for the double and then he also misses a game. So
yeah, I did that. Yeah.
So you kind of want to try and avoid those situations, I guess.
Yeah,
you
that's
gotta buy
right.
the keeper.
Huh?
Yeah.
You gotta buy the keeper.
Yeah.
We need Rodri.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You need Rodri
yeah.
or Ederson. Like anyone who City desperately need to play.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit easier this year because Haaland and Foden are both nailed. Like I think previous years it's really just been one player that's been nailed, and this year we've got two that are pretty well nailed. And then I suppose if you include Ederson, to Karan's point, then you've got three. But I don't know. I've never been a big fan of going for Ederson as my goalkeeper.
Fair enough. All right. Next up is I think it's Karan. So take it away, Karan, because you are on a very interesting strategy that I even didn't expect.
Yeah, so I've been playing around with FPL Review quite a lot, trying to find the optimal point to wildcard and bench boost. Like Andrew said before, I don't really love bench boosting and carrying a lot of value on my bench. So my initial plan was actually to wildcard in 27 and bench boost in 28. Because all the teams that double in 28 have, there's lots of cheap players, so you don't have to leave too much money on your bench. But there were lots of things that were up in the air, like the Richarlison injury, Salah. So I just didn't really feel comfortable wildcarding last week, so I've delayed it by 1 week. So now I've hit the wildcard button, and my plan is to get a team that goes for the 37 bench boost and to free hit in 29. So my wildcard team looks a lot like the wildcard that I would do if I wildcarded in 30 or 31. It's just that now I can also attack the 28 doubles. Yeah, we'll get to that slide later where I talk about it, but I'm pretty convinced that there's not really that much difference free hitting now versus 34 based on what we know now with the fixtures. So I really think I think it's a much of a muchness. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. Yeah.
Fair enough. And then finally, Pete.
Yep. This disaster class of a side. So I am free hitting in game week 29. So I don't really have many players there, and I haven't really been angling my free transfers the last few game weeks to put out a side in 29. So I've just completely put that to the side, which has made things a bit easier for myself. And yeah, heading into game week 28 with 2 free transfers. Now I've already removed KDB for Heung-min Son. So that's one of my free transfers. And I think the other one is likely going to be Alex Moreno. I'm thinking for Gusto. More so, they've got Newcastle this week, which is a decent fixture. Probably more so from the attacking perspective rather than defensive. I don't even as a Chelsea fan, I don't trust them at all in defence. But coming out into game week 30, Chelsea's playing Burnley at home. That's probably one of the best fixtures around, and it's just one less issue to think about down the track. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah. When you mentioned Gusto, even on your pod, it got me thinking because I was like thinking of the whole concept of delaying the wildcard. So I was like, all right, so if I want to delay the wildcard, who do I need to get? Maybe I would like to get a Salah in 30 because
Yeah.
Haaland and Saka play each other. So I was like, okay, if I was to get a Salah in 30, I kind of need to like remove certain players to try and fund it up. So that's where I have Poro that kind of needs to go if I need to get Salah in, because I have Odegaard right now, and Odegaard would probably be the one who goes towards Salah. But then I am short on cash, so Poro might have to go. Gusto became like an option that I was like, oh, Burnley in game week 30, maybe that's somewhere I can afford. But then I'll have to do another move on top of that as well, because still won't be enough cash. And that's where I'm like, I kind of have to wait and see. There's like this whole talk about Bournemouth probably doubling, or the chances improving if Brighton beat Roma or not as well this week. So this is where I'm wondering, because I've already done like you KDB to Son this week. Now I'm contemplating whether I need to do a -4 to try and bring in a Bournemouth defender or not. To try and free up funds, and also give me an opportunity to make it a bit more easy to get like Salah in 30. But I'm still up in the air on that. So maybe during this podcast, you guys might be able to let me know if it's a good idea or a bad idea in terms of taking a hit for a Bournemouth defender.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same situation as you. I'm trying to decide whether that second transfer in defense is it worth attacking the doubles in 28 or setting up my side probably better for the long term, because Bournemouth don't really rack up too many clean sheets, and neither do Chelsea. But if I'm going to bring in a defender, I like Gusto more so for the attacking returns. Especially against that Newcastle defense, they're pretty bad at the moment.
It's just not sexy, is it? Taking a hit for like a Zabani or something.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be okay for this game week, just for the two fixtures, but coming out of it, I just, it doesn't really excite me. It's probably an extra transfer I'd have to make down the road.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then the fixtures are good, and if they double in 34, then it's like a So it's a up and down like situation. There's no upside. That's the problem. It's like a very low upside, like 6 pointer at best every week.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll go into this is what we've been doing from last week. Basically trying to get an idea of like how teams have done. So we look at Rob T's predicted odds that he had before the game week, and then we look at on Understat the XG numbers that were after the game. Now, last time we went through every game, I think that took a bit too long, Karan. We might want to like tighten down.
Maybe just the most FPL relevant games.
Yeah, maybe the most FPL relevant games, because I think in the next slide I've kind of summed it up, so we'll be able to like talk if we need per fixture. But FPL relevant wise, for all three of y'all, anything that's kind of like stands out from here in terms of underperformance or overperformance?
I can't believe that Arsenal were only given a 52% chance of a clean sheet. That's amazing. In my mind, it was like a 90% bank of it. I guess no one's keeping clean sheets this season, so all the odds have been quite low.
Fair enough.
I mean, even watching it, it was never in doubt, was it?
No.
That's true. Anything else that pops out from here?
I'm a bit surprised that Arsenal only generated 2.5 XG in that game. They absolutely peppered the goal. So,
which means they could have peppered it even more. But I think they kind of took their foot off the gas like after a point.
I think Luton are like worth calling out. The Luton are quite an attacking side. Like this is a couple of times we've seen them generate more XG than what the betting odds seem to suggest. So I think this is the narrative that they're really going for it. They're like going down in a blaze of glory. So I feel better about my Morris pick is what I was going to say.
Fair enough. One thing I also noticed is Spurs. Now, not Spurs from an attacking point of view, but Spurs from a defensive point of view. So Palace was supposed to get an XG of at least 1.05, but they only got like 0.28. So now this is a very tiny one game sample of post-break Spurs. So I don't know if that's going to continue where Spurs maybe have figured out how to shore up their defense a bit. Or
They have a 6 playing for the first time in many games. Yeah. So Bissouma started the whole game, I think. Yeah.
so
So
that
probably something to do with it.
maybe that's one other thing that I noticed. Anything else to pop out on this, or do you guys want to go like to the next slide, which might help out a bit more?
I think something that stands out there is Everton's XG of 3.12 against West Ham. Like that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose they had the penalty, didn't they? Which is ranked pretty high.
Yeah, about
which
0.7
they missed.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, but and also just having a look at United against City there, 0.15.
That point,
Yeah.
that's just like after the 23rd minute, they had nothing.
Yeah, but a Rashford wonder strike. So
I know.
Yeah. It was so
Collector's
annoying as
item.
an Ake owner because before the
Yeah.
game, and I was like, well, I can't see Man United scoring in this game. It's such a good chance for a clean sheet, and it did play out like that. The Rashford goal was just so annoying.
It's one of those freak goals that kind of happens, and then City just they concede their clean sheet some one way or the other. But yeah.
That's been the story of the season with City defenders.
Yep. All right, so we'll go to the next
Also,
slide. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Ryan, just quickly. Newcastle attack looks like it's maybe clicking again.
Or was it Wolves defense and Wolves in general being pretty bad?
Yeah, but yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, they did more than what they were expected. I was a bit more shocked that Wolves didn't muster much, but then depleted attack somewhat as well. Maybe something to consider. All right. So now this might explain a bit more in terms of how the previous chart was. What I've done is on the left side, the table that you see is basically what I've done is we're going to track this for about 5 to maybe 6 game weeks every time. So anything that's red is basically teams have underperformed compared to what was predicted. So the numbers predicted are in the brackets, and outside the brackets is what they actually got. Anything in green means they've overperformed or met it and overperformed. Anything in orange is they were very close to meeting it. So, for example, Bournemouth, who we're all looking at getting this week, and probably even some triple captain in Solanke, they've not overperformed in their last 2 against small sample size. But they're kind of meeting expectations. Not exactly going up. Arsenal, on the other hand, I think Arsenal, their XG numbers are so high that you kind of expect them to do well anyways, even though they've kind of underperformed in the Sheffield one. Anything
the Arsenal. Oh, sorry. You go.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly add that I think this shows that you maybe can't expect 5-6 goals every game because they're playing very well, but they're also running a bit hot.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah,
Andrew?
I mean, I was saying in our podcast yesterday that, I agree we can't expect them to score 5 goals every game, but we might be able to expect them to score 5 goals for one more game against Brentford. But yeah, in terms of this underperformance, if you think about what happened with the own goal, if Bogle doesn't get his foot to that ball and put it in his own net, there's a guy right behind him with literally like a 0.95 XG chance. So, sometimes, the XG underperformance doesn't tell the full story. Sometimes there are certain circumstances in a game that can cause that to happen.
Yep, true. That context is key in this situation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And I think one more I kind of would add is the City team. Kind of haven't met their numbers that they were expected to meet. Now, I don't know to what extent that is like just not firing as what we would expect, which results in like Haaland also not meeting the captaincy mark in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but ADB was expected to play in 26, so
yes,
the model would have predicted a higher number then.
Yeah, probably true. Cool. So we'll start with the fixtures this week. United take on Everton. I don't know if there's too much fantasy relevance in that. I've got Brantford. I don't know if I need to start Brantford apart from that. Any thoughts on this game?
I probably wouldn't start Branthwaite if I was you. I think that you'd expect, as bad as Manchester United sort of looked last week, especially in the second half. You'd expect them to score at least one goal against Everton. So, yeah, I don't think that Branthwaite's the guy for you this week, Ryan.
Fair enough. Pete?
Yeah, look, I think for yourself, it'll be a fun night because it's the early kickoff. United should win this game. I mean, we just saw Everton's predicted XG before. Like,
Yeah.
they're absolutely rank at the moment. So I think this has a Garnacho double written all over it, and
Ooh,
an
that's
an
when I'm benching
Anthony 93rd minute substitution appearance.
I'm benching Garnacho because my attack is stacked. Defense is another problem. Karan?
I mean, this is the hope that gets you, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I agree. Probably like a 2-1 United or something.
Fair enough. All right.
We're probably gonna limp to a win. Yeah.
Yeah, true. We might actually. Like you mentioned about Everton's high XG numbers against West Ham, Pete. That might
Yeah.
be a similar situation in this game as well, given the amount of transition football that's been played at Old Trafford. So
Basketball.
yeah,
Every game
indeed,
is basketball.
indeed. All right, now fantasy relevant: Bournemouth versus Sheffield United. Now, the reason I've been thinking about a Sheffield United defender, if you look at Sheffield United's numbers, they've underperformed both times, and even in the Arsenal game, didn't seem like scoring at all, to be honest. Bournemouth, I know they don't keep that many clean sheets, but even then, they are a decent defense, right? So, is it worth bringing in a Bournemouth defender that is not Neto as well, just in case that has low upside, very rare to get like a bonus point even, or a hit? Who wants to go first here?
I don't think it is, to be honest. I mean, I just don't like the defensive assets that Bournemouth have at the moment. Like we've already discussed it. Like Senesi was the one. And yeah, I mean, I quite like Neto, but if he's, if he's, I think he's the second best Bournemouth asset for the double game week. But if you're just purely talking about defenders, I almost think like your Luton defenders are better options. Just like obviously Doughty is probably the best. I think Doughty is the best defensive option for the double game week, just for the attacking returns. And I know that you were saying before that Bournemouth have got good fixtures sort of for a little while in the medium term, but I just don't know if you want to hold on to that level of Bournemouth asset for that long. Like who knows what kind of defense they'll cobble together, as a solution to their injuries in the long term. I guess Zabani is pretty nailed. But yeah, I mean, so we don't really know yet how the absence of Senesi is going to impact their defense as well. So I just don't love their defenders. That's all.
Fair enough.
Do you see Kirkers as an option, Andrew?
I really like Kirkes from an attacking point of view, but from what I've heard from other people, admittedly, I haven't done the research myself, but from what I've heard, other people say his minutes just aren't as reliable as say Zabani. So I suppose for a double game week, you really want to be confident in minutes as well, don't you?
I think his minutes are kind of affected by the injury status of Kelly.
Okay.
And if Kelly is fit, I think Kirk's minutes in the 20 double, just alone the double might be fine. It's the long term play. If you want to keep him for a long term, then you don't know, because if Kelly comes back, then it's a minutes problem. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, Zabani is like nailed, just not much apart from a 6-pointer at best. Pete?
Yeah, I echo those thoughts. Like, you really just, for a hit, I don't think it's worth it, because you're really just angling for a clean sheet and to come out only a couple points in the black. So yeah, none of them really excite me. It's like there's just not much of an attacking threat there. Like we saw Lewis Cook get 2 assists on the weekend, but like when was the last time we got any attacking returns before last week? Like, it's not something you can really bank on.
Yeah, if you saw the assists, they're not repeatable, are they?
No.
They were kind of quite fortunate. So yeah, I don't think that you can use that as a yardstick.
Fair enough. Overall, Bournemouth in general, it's like they have the best fixtures, but probably the worst players that you can even think about getting.
Yep.
Whereas Luton, not as great fixtures, but they're so attacking that you just want some of their assets.
I mean, Bournemouth are like they have an attacking manager. I think it's important to remember. So whatever side they cobble together, they will play. They will look to dominate possession and just take heaps of shots and stuff. So yeah, I think it's worth remembering. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think Semenyo is another one to kind of mention. Unfortunately, he's listed as a forward on FPL. But if he was a midfielder, I might have actually considered it a bit more.
Yeah.
But
I think if you're looking for a midfielder, I like Clivert the best out of all the Bournemouth midfielders. I don't know what you guys think of that, but yeah, I mean, he seems to be like their kind of preferred number 10 at the moment. And yeah, he doesn't play a full 90 minutes. He usually plays about 70, but I think in a double game week, 140 minutes. It's not a bad option.
Yeah.
It's not a bad option, especially because he's so cheap. I think he's only about 4.6 or 4.7, so he might enable other moves as well, just at that price.
Yeah, I think my reasoning for thinking of I haven't thought about midfield because like playing a 3-4-3 with double Arsenal, Heung-min Son and Foden, and you're like, no one's entering that midfield. So meanwhile, the defense has Doherty as one spot, Gabriel as another spot, and then the third defender is where I'm kind of stuck because I've got Pedro Porro who's might play this week, but against Aston Villa, so no chance of a clean sheet there. I've got Brantwaite, like we mentioned already, no chance of a clean sheet there as well. And then I'm down to I don't even know who my fifth defender is at this point.
Brantwaite?
No, I had Brantwaite.
Charlie Taylor?
No, I don't have Charlie Taylor. Let me go back again. Reguilon, who is playing Arsenal. So he's going to get destroyed. So that's why I'm like wondering, right? Because all of my defenders are like at best maximum 2-pointer, the third defender, which is why I'm like, even if I was to take it for a hit, probably be get another extra 2 points over it, maybe. I don't know. Unless Pedro Porro comes out with like some miracle assist or something from somewhere. But that's the fine margins that I'm currently at. I'm not really sure where to go from there.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar position. I absolutely hate my third defender this week. I think I've got Porro, same as you. I've got Estepinian, and I've got Powell. So I still don't want to get a Bournemouth defender though. I might even, you know what? If Estepinian doesn't play in Europe in midweek, that's probably a pretty good indication that he might get the start. And home to Forest, it might be a decent option to play him for just one last fixture.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to Palace versus Luton. Now, the assets that everyone wants, but unfortunately, with depending on what chip you're on, if you're free hitting 29, you're probably not looking too much into Luton because they don't have good fixtures after 29, and no double as well. If you're not free hitting like Andrew, then you're like, give me all the Luton assets possible. And then Karan, who's wildcarding and free hitting in 29, where do you stand, Karan?
I want Morris. I think Morris becomes pretty easy to get if you're on wildcard. Otherwise, you got to do some do some convoluted stuff. I'm sort of I don't really know yet about Barkley, but I definitely want Doughty and Morris. And Barkley is maybe like a luxury punt that I can afford because I'm on wildcard.
Fair enough.
So, but it's going to cause headaches down the road. I got to spend all my transfers trying to get all these people out of my team.
Yep. That's the disadvantage of Luton players. Andrew, you've bought in Morris already.
Yeah. So, I had that terrible forward Haaland, so I got rid of him and got the world beater Morris instead today. I never thought in a million years I'd say that I was going to do that, but I've done it. I think Morris is a no-brainer on wildcard. But I think he's a really good option. I was looking at him. I've been looking at his returns over the last few games. Like he broke back into the team I think 7 weeks ago, and since then he's outscored Solanke by about 12 or 14 points in that same time frame. So obviously Solanke is a huge EO player, and he's got the best fixtures. But form-wise, Morris is probably the better asset of the two right now, and I think probably Solanke's knee injury plays a part in that. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the fixtures. I think people are underestimating, I think, Luton assets this double game week because they've got 2 away games. But if you're going to have 2 away games, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth are not the 2 worst away games to have. So yeah, I've gone Haaland to Morris, and I'm probably gonna. I don't own Solanke yet, but I'm going to get Solanke as well, probably for Tony, and I'll just bring Tony back next week. So yeah, I spent a lot of time and effort thinking about who was the best asset between Tony and between Morris and Solanke, and then it hurt my brain too much, so I'm just getting them both.
And I was about to ask you that question, like who would you pick if you had the choice? But I guess
Yeah.
you just go both is the question.
I think if you don't have Solanke yet, and you've got to bring one in, I just think you've got to go Solanke, just because you're putting yourself too much at risk. Solanke's going to be 200% EO, and he does have hat-trick potential against teams like Sheffield United. So Morris, I like Morris's form better at the moment, but I just think you've got to go Solanke unless you're ranked sort of over 1 million and you're chasing your mini league leader who's 100 points ahead or something. It might be a good opportunity to go against Solanke and take that punt. But yeah, Solanke's obviously the safer one.
Fair enough. Pete, as a non-free hit, as a free hitter in 29, where do you stand on
Well,
Luton?
I'm heading into this with double Luton defense, which is not a great place you want to be in. So I've got Kaminsky, thanks to Andrew roping me into that transfer a few weeks ago when he set me up, when he was sabotaging my side. And I've had Doughty for a few weeks, and the only time he's returned is when I benched him in the previous game week. So I'm really looking forward to playing Doughty, though, in this double, because he's so much fun to watch. And I just couldn't believe the point dodging that was going on the last few game weeks when I've been starting him in my 11. So, but I feel that I think 2 is maybe enough. I think if you're bookending your side with like a Morris and a Doughty, they're probably like the 2 ideal picks, because they'll probably like link up like they did on the weekend for a goal, you'd hope. But yeah, I think two Luton is probably just, it's enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
He's a bit of a poor man's Pedro Porro, isn't
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks threatening. Looks great.
I call him a B-Tech Trent at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, he always has those opportunities to like try and get points. It's just that, like Pete mentioned, right? You bench him when you think he's least likely to get points, which happened to me as well last week. So hopefully this week he actually comes away with some points that is not like appearances only, like what he did in the last double. But yeah, now if you were, let's say, for all of y'all, how many would you think would be the ideal number of double game week players to have for this week?
So I'm on wildcard. So so I think I've thought about this a lot, and I really think the maximum I can get away with is 5 and not 6, because 6 just creates way too much planning headaches down the road, even with the 29 free hit. So I've settled on 3 Bournemouth, 2 Luton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're not free hitting 29, so
yeah. I mean, I think that 4 is enough. I think if you're on wildcard, then yeah, sure, it makes sense to get 5 and load up on it. But I think you're okay if you got 3 to 4, as long as they're the right 3 to 4. If you've got Solanke or Morris, I think Solanke and Doughty are the 2 that you almost have to have. And then if you have another one, whether it be a Barkley or a Morris, or a Neto, then you're probably okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go in with 1 Bournemouth and 3 Luton. Because just I agree with what you said before. Like Bournemouth are the better double game week team, but Luton have the better double game week assets, it seems. So yeah, I think 3 to 4 is all right.
Enough. Heat, where do you
Yeah.
stand?
Yeah, 3 to 4. I think when you look at these two sides, the assets that really stand out for Bournemouth, it's really just Solanke and Neto. That's really who you could really hang your hat on. And then with Luton, it's like Morris, Doughty, and then anything else outside of that, it's just you're going into bonus round type of stuff. So I think if you cover 3 of those 4, you're probably going to be okay. You're probably going to be safe, especially if you captain Solanke as well. I think that's going to be enough.
Yeah, fair enough. I've currently got just Doty and Solanke, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the third like to add or not is the question. And like even if you like you mentioned Neto, right? Most of us already have like Ariola this week, and he's against Burnley. So it kind of makes like very less sense to even think about upgrading Ariola to Neto at the moment, because you kind of expect West Ham to keep a clean sheet against Burnley.
Yeah.
Whereas if West Ham had like a harder fixture, then I would like probably just done it in a heartbeat. It's just that the fact that they have an easier fixture, then you have to add the hit points on top of it, and you're like, can Neto actually match Ariola's potential clean sheet plus the hit as well? Can he pay it off? That's where I'm like, not really sure. So at the moment, I'm on 2. I don't know if that will become a third. I have not thought about even selling Haaland to Morris, even though I'm free hit 29. Like that hasn't crossed my mind. And part of the reason is because of like mini leagues. So there are, like I mentioned, now Andrew has the same forward line, he had the same forward line of Haaland, Tony, and Watkins. And my mini league leader also has the same forward line. So he's most like, and he doesn't have Solanke, so he's probably going to remove Haaland, is what I'm thinking, to get Solanke in. And then that kind of creates a prediction of like, okay, so maybe Haaland ends up becoming a differential for me in a mini league. In reality, he might not be a differential, but in the mini league, he ends up becoming a differential. So I'm like, do I really want to sell Erling Haaland against Liverpool when both in past history, like the games have been scoring as well? I'm like, not really sure if I really want to do that. But maybe I might just go in with 2, most likely at the moment. So we'll see.
I guess Morris would be a differential against your mini league rival as well,
Yes,
though,
that's
wouldn't
true.
he? And I think my thoughts are it's always nice to have both penalty takers in a double game week. Like you're getting extra tickets to the raffle by doing that.
Yep, fair enough. All right, next game. Do we really want to speak about Wolves and Fulham? Apart from Q, who's in the chat, had Muniz and he's been celebrating Muniz's victories. Apart from that, anything else to like add onto this?
Nah, it doesn't really feel fantasy relevant at the moment, other than our great friend Q, who's rocking the Frankie Muniz points at the moment.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I just hope Muniz scores again, but apart from that, I don't think we need to talk about it too much.
Yeah. Quick question to Karan. Karan, have you considered Muniz on a wildcard or?
Nah, no.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just more planning headaches. Good pick though. Yeah.
All right. There's a question from Mira as well about Chelsea and Petrovic, but when we get to the Chelsea game, we'll come to that point. Arsenal versus Brentford. Will Arsenal score 5+ goals again?
6-0.
Probably.
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay, quick, all done. Anything else to add on Arsenal apart from Pete? Did you go Kai Havertz? Kai, yes.
I had Kai Havertz as my differential last week in our segment. So yeah, he's been getting goals and assists the last 3 game weeks, and he never gets the first goal of the game though. He'll always get like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, he loves junk time.
It's just what he does. But yeah, he's just actually. I'm wondering how the Martinelli, because I mean he limped off in that game, but we did see Gabriel Jesus return as well. But it's not like they're really lacking for options up there, because they've also got Trossard. So I'm sure they're still going to spank Brentford.
Yeah.
Probably Trossard will play off the left, right?
That's what you think, yeah.
Yeah, you think so. I mean, the thing about Brentford at the moment is that they're without both Pinnock and me, who are their 2 first choice centre backs. So we know how good Declan Rice's corners and free kicks are, and how much of a monster Gabriel is at the moment. I just don't see Aya and Collins or whoever they roll out instead of me and Pinnock being able to contain those guys. I think it's a massive opportunity for the Arsenal defensive assets to get attacking returns as well as a pretty likely clean sheet. So yeah, it could be, if you've got double defense, Gabriel and Saliba, it could be a very big week for you.
I've got Martin Odegaard, so I'm hoping that he actually does another return. He was looking good for 3 bonus until Kai Havertz stole it at the end from him. So we'll see. Hopefully something happens. The key thing with Gabriel Jesus back is what I'm wondering, like, will that affect Havertz's? Because Havertz is playing like that striker / false 9 role. So with Jesus back, will Havertz move to midfield? He hasn't really looked that great there. That's the one thing I'm kind of worried with Havertz. But apart from that, we'll see. Saka apparently was sick, but assuming he should be fine for this game, ideally. Yeah, nothing else to add, I guess, on Arsenal. Brentford.
I had a quick one.
Yes, go ahead,
Do you
Karan.
guys see Ben White as a pick?
Ooh, now, Mira, who's in the chat, bought in Ben White as a 1-week punt. She's
nice.
on a wild card as well this week, so I don't know if she's keeping Ben White at the moment. And she's commented, might have to bring Ben White back in. So I just think it's just too much value, like Saliba as well, I think.
Yep.
I just like the goal scoring. When you look at Arsenal, they always tend to try and find Gabriel. Some reason Gabriel's like on every set piece conversation is like, put it in here, and then
he's a magnet.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, I don't really look at it too much. But I don't know. What about you guys?
Yeah, like I owned Ben White for most of last season, and he was so enjoyable to own, especially from the attacking returns. This season, we're seeing a lot more of those balls being put into the box from Declan Rice. So that final delivery, Ben White doesn't usually have it this season, but he's still fun to have. I mean, he popping up with a goal the other day. It was a superb goal too. So yeah, great week to have him, Mira.
Yeah. Well, just a little bit of a left field option. What do we think about Kiwior on wildcard? You know, his attacking returns have been really, really consistent since he's been in the team, and he's been pretty impressive. Like, is he going to lose his place when Zinchenko comes back? Like, I think he's been playing too well. He's only 4.3.
This was asked to me yesterday as well, and I absolutely no idea. I feel like it's a minutes problem because Zinchenko, once he's back,
it could be a problem that come in a few game weeks' time you got to sort out.
It could be. It is a punt. I just feel like he's been playing a lot better than Zinchenko was when Zinchenko was in the team. So, there's probably no reason for him to come out of the team at this stage, but it is definitely a risk. I guess for the price you are, I guess you got to have a think about whether the price saving is enough to take that risk. But he has been getting pretty consistent attacking returns while he has been in the team.
Yep.
He's definitely been better than Zinchenko. But it's that thing of like maybe he's like 1 or 2 bad games away from a dropping. So
yeah.
And one thing Matthew has added is I wouldn't back Kiwior to keep his place long term. Zinchenko, Tommy, and Timber back in training, so plenty of left back options if needed from Arsenal.
Yeah,
Tommy also, I forgot. Yeah.
Brentford, on the other hand, I think you mentioned about selling Tony, which is not a bad option because even if you can bring them back for like game week 30 against Burnley if needed. There are a few cases where everyone thought of like not bringing him back for game week 30 because if it takes like another hit, is it really worth it to bring Tony back in? Region been very attacking as a fullback, but also leaves, I think Andrew and Pete, you mentioned this on your podcast, he leaves a lot of space behind. Thoughts, Brentford in general, apart from anything that we've already mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit disappointed with Tony since I've had him. I got him in. I got him for the double in game week 26, I think it was, that they had the double. I got him instead of Solanke. I guess that he's the reason why I've never owned Solanke is because I went with Tony. And it started off all right. He scored a goal in the double, but he has had a few blanks since then. I think there's been about 5 or 6 Brentford goals without any involvement from him. And I guess that's what makes me comfortable with losing him just for this week. He is away to Arsenal, but I think despite all that, I think he is someone that I think he's pretty important to have in the blank game week 29. You know, you're playing Burnley, um, even though it's away from home. And he's on penalties and he's so good at them. Yeah, I think he could haul against Burnley.
Fair enough. Karan, anything else?
I think he's looked really good. I just think it's unfortunate that Brentford are in a really bad place at the moment. Every time I watch, like the way he just just holds the ball up, it's just insane to watch. Like against two people.
Yeah,
You
very
know.
very good player, but he has been dropping deep in order to
Yeah.
help progress the ball. So it seems to be like the attacking chances are falling to, players like Wisser and even like the overlapping fullbacks like Region and Roaslev. But yeah, I mean Tony he's just class though, so he can score in any game. I still think he's a good asset. Medium to long term.
Probably a good captaincy in 29 as well, to be honest.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
There's a few options in 29.
Yep.
Son and Watkins and Tony and
Yeah.
Bowen. But it's not going to be an easy captain call in 29.
Yep.
Hmm.
Speaking about Son and Watkins, Aston Villa versus Spurs. How are we going to get to like game week 30, 31 and think about selling probably the most prolific forward in FPL and in the Premier League right now? Thoughts? Villa, Spurs? How do we see this game going?
I mean, Villa don't blank or double from now on.
Yeah, that's the
So,
one reason to kind of sell, but he's just in such good form, Watkins.
yeah, he is.
Yeah, I mean, how many points is he on so far this season? Like 180 or something?
It's like a record. It's like a record for a play without a penalty.
Yeah, without penalties, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So who do we think the three kind of forwards are going to be from 30, 31 onwards if Watkins isn't one of them?
Alan, I think the other two will rotate.
Maybe Darwin?
I was
Yeah,
thinking about that, but
I still think Watkins is a great hold. Like,
yeah,
other than City and Arsenal, like,
yeah, because
he can get goals in any game.
Yeah, that's the thing. But then it's so tough because your team tend to move according to how the doubles form as well.
Yeah.
And like Darwin would have a couple doubles. If United get that double with Sheffield United, we're definitely going to want Højlund in there if he's fit at that point. Tony has some really good fixtures as well, post like 35 something around that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
tough.
just Watkins is just so good.
Yeah.
I guess if we're going to use I mean, I'm probably going to use a free hit chip in one of the doubles.
Yeah.
So I guess in that week I will go without Watkins. But yeah, it will be very tempting when I put together my game week 31 wildcard. I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave him out. I guess that's a future Andrew problem.
Yeah. I don't know. I might keep him just because he's just so good. We'll see. Because like Pete mentioned, right? He can score in those games as well. Like even though City's defense is good, they do tend to concede once or twice. I don't think that Watkins will like blank necessarily, but there is a chance of him like getting at least a goal, which is not too bad.
Yeah. Plus, he's also fighting for a spot at the Euros.
Yes.
And he's probably in the box seat to be, 2 IC behind Harry Kane this season. So, yeah, he's going to still be putting his head down.
That's true. From Spurs, a lot of people have got to Heung-min Son. I've also gone and got him just now. Peter also has gone and got him. I think a lot of people on Wildcard also will be having him. Apart from him, are there any other Spurs players that are viable, especially going into 29?
I think Madison is worth a shot. But he just hasn't looked as imperious as he did at the start of the season. So if you get him now, you're sort of hoping that he plays himself back into form. But yeah, I think it's worth calling out.
I think on free hit 29, you're probably going to have 3 Spurs. But it's a different question if you're asking, do you want to bring in any other Spurs apart from Son longer term? If it's just on the free hit, then yeah, Maddison's an option. Porro maybe if he's fit by then. I've even heard some people talking about bringing in Timo
Yes.
Werner for the free hit in 29.
Best pick in the game.
Yeah.
Pete is not in all those Chelsea memories.
Just PTSD of him hitting the post and offside flags just going up constantly in my
Yeah.
mind.
And there was also, I think, Andrew, you shared Richarlison probably back in training.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that. I've kept Richarlison, as part of my Gameweek 29 sort of non-free hit plan. So it was, I've had some bad luck with injuries because I've had Pinnock who got injured. I brought Powell in for Pinnock and then he immediately got injured. I've had Porro injury and then stacked on top of that, I've had Richarlison injury. So all of the players in my team that have been injured have been ones that I was relying on for 29. It would have been a lot easier for me if someone like Foden had been injured, and then everyone suffers, but at least it's not someone that I needed for 29. But I might get lucky, and it might be that these guys are all going to be back for the blank. I mean, even if Richarlison is only fit enough for the bench in blank game week 29, I'll still keep him. I'll take 30 minutes off the bench and a 1-pointer with a potential attacking return on top, in the last 30 minutes of a game.
Fair enough. And then one thing, Pete, you said you're selling Moreno.
Yeah.
Is that because also of the Lucadine rotation risk?
Yeah, Lucadine getting that goal the other day probably hasn't done him any favors. But just the few weeks I've owned Moreno, like it gets to he'd been subbed off in the 59th minute. He's been subbed off like 65. I think he made like 75 minutes this week and then lost the clean sheet just before he went off. So yeah, the minutes are a risk. It seems to be either feast or famine with him. Like he's had so many close calls, but I've just been on the famine side of the results. So for me, it's a fairly easy swap out.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think you've got to be careful when you bring in these defensive assets. Like you've got to really look at the manager and there are certain managers that are really happy to bring people off at 50, 55, 56, 57 minutes. And there are other managers that will almost never make subs until kind of 65, 70. If you look at De Zerbi, like he is happy to haul people off at halftime regularly. And then he usually makes some transfers in the high 50s, or just on 60. So a lot more risky bringing in players from teams whose managers make those kind of substitutions before the hour mark. And Emery seems to be one of those managers that does occasionally bring people off before 60. So it's a recipe for being trolled. We've all been trolled by Cash and Dean, and now it's Moreno.
Fair enough. Karan, anything to add on this game?
I mean, I expect this to be high scoring, right? Both ways.
Yeah, ideally, I think
Yeah.
I was looking at I was looking at the market odds, tried to before Robs could come, and I think the total goals for the game were like somewhere between 3.7 to 3.9.
Yeah.
So high scoring
That
game.
feels about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. We'll see how it goes then. Talking about De Zerbi, Brighton against Forest. Now you mentioned about Estupinan, if he does get benched, maybe he wouldn't have been invited for a Pasadena or something, and he might actually feature in this game. Pascal Gross got benched in the last one, which kind of was a bit shocking. This is probably the last game, good one for Brighton as well, I think. Unless probably doubles 34, 37, we're not really sure. One thing to add is there is a possibility based on Brighton's result against Roma this week that the probability of Bournemouth Dublin either goes up or down in 34. So that's one thing to kind of monitor for those who are looking. Apart from that, from this game specifically, do we expect Brighton to keep a clean sheet?
No.
No.
They just don't do it.
Do we expect them to score goals? Because they've been underperforming the last couple of weeks.
I can see it being maybe like a 1-1 or a 2-1, one way or another. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's no chance of a clean sheet. I just think it's it's more likely than not that they will concede, just the way that they are at the moment, the form that they're in.
Karan, anything else?
I haven't really been tracking Brighton too much.
Fair enough.
Like we talked about this last week. They had such a great fixture run, but because we got blinded by all these doubles and everything, I've not really considered them as much as I should have. Yeah.
Fair point. And I guess one thing that is like Pascal Gross, if he tends to get an assist, this is the final game
Yeah.
for max bonus as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
will add with Brighton though, like they do have that Roma game, which is Friday morning our time, and so Deserby he's probably likely to pull out, the strongest 11 for that away fixture, and then how do they sort of settle back in and then play this game on Sunday when Forest are probably like really fighting for every point they can get at the moment? It might be on paper when we saw this fixture, it was probably like a straightforward, oh yeah, Brighton will easily win this game. But now that we're closer to it, it's not as clear cut.
Yeah, because the next leg is also next week, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah, so there might be quite a bit of rotation in this game for Brighton as well.
Yeah, I think that Brighton are going to prioritize Europe over the league. I think the week before they pretty much picked a very strong team in the FA Cup, and then De Zerbi said, "Oh, we're going to need to rotate in the league," and then that's when Gross was benched. So I think that they're probably going to pick the strongest team possible for the European game, and then some of those players are probably going to be rotated out for the league. So I think the team sheet for the European game is going to be pretty important in terms of expected minutes for some of these players. But yeah,
fair enough. All right, West Ham versus Burnley. Can Jared Bowen get you another hat trick, Andrew?
Oh, I hope so. I'll take 2 goals. I won't get too greedy.
Fair enough. I guess this is where like West Ham, like Ariel as a goalkeeper, good option. Hopefully, maybe the thing is where West Ham play, he tends to keep a lot of a lot of saves. Clean sheets is a different story because they tend to consider a lot. And I was watching the Burnley versus Bournemouth game last week, and I was like, the amount of chances that Burnley are creating, I expect something similar in this game as well. But Burnley in general, we just don't expect much FPL wise. So mainly West Ham. Now, for those who haven't got Bowen or Kudus, where would you go? I'll go with Karan first, I guess, in this one.
I haven't really considered them. Again, in my wildcard, they've got a great fixture this week, but a few tough fixtures after this and no doubles. So
fair enough. Pete?
But I guess I would pick Bowen over Kudus.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably Bowen 1, Kudus 2nd. Third, Paqueta's fun to watch. Now that he's back,
fun.
he's controlling a lot, and plus he's on the penalties as well. That always works in his favor, but he seems to always be the one supplying like the through balls and the passes for the Bowens and the Kudus. So yeah.
Andrew?
Emerson?
Yeah.
Emerson's probably he's looked pretty attacking.
Yeah, but not too many clean sheets.
No.
I don't know if I want to double West Ham defense as well. I think I'm that this thing. Yeah. Andrew?
It's not good for your health.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Is there any thought on your wild card, Karen, to go for Bowen and then just have like almost just for this week, and then if you're going to free hit in 29, and then just game week 30, Bowen can be your route to, I don't know, Salah, for example. If you just leave enough money, if you build a wild card that's assuming that has a Salah spot, but maybe just have Bowen in that spot with the money in the bank for that transfer in 30 to get Salah for that home game against Brighton, because there's just that much upside in this home game against Burnley. I wonder if it's worth just having that one transfer booked in.
I think that's a really good shot. I had always assumed I would get Salah and bench him. But that comes with its own risk. Like, what if you find out the injury is worse than it is or something? So yeah, actually I will consider that. That's actually a good shot.
Salah's I think Salah's back in training. as of today-ish, and maybe
Yeah.
it'd be good. Maybe he'll get some minutes off the bench in the Europa League. But if he gets some minutes in the Manchester derby, then you assume he's going to be good to go for starting in game week 30. So yeah, I don't mind that at all for your wild card. But I mean, I think Bowen's just by far and away the best asset for West
Yeah.
Ham. Like he really struggled to score while Paqueta wasn't there. But now that Paqueta's back, he's the one scoring. Like Paqueta is just enabling him.
Yep.
So for a 1 week punt, I'd actually for a similar thing, I'd considered Eze.
Oh yeah.
But I think it plays somewhat similarly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair as well. His I guess his fitness is a little bit more tenuous than Bowen.
Yeah.
But Eze is the kind of guy that you kind of crossing your fingers that he doesn't kind of pull up with something in the first half and then get subbed off at halftime.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. All right, the big game for the week: Liverpool versus Manchester City. We've all got a couple Liverpool couple City players already in our teams. We've gone from 3 to 2 in most cases. Some still have 3. Liverpool, on the other hand, we don't really have many of them unless you're wildcarding. Maybe there's a chance to get maybe Salah if you get news that he's like fit or something. Where do you guys stand on this game? And especially with wildcarder, Karan, how many City are you having? And are Foden and Haaland still part of that team?
I've actually gone with no City with a plan to get Foden and Haaland back by 32. It's a bit contentious and I might change before the deadline, but that's where I'm leaning towards at the moment. And my wildcard will have 2 to 3 Liverpool in it. Because I think it's really good for the 37 bench boost planning. And I think there's the 30 and 31 fixtures are really, really good.
Yep.
Brighton at home, Sheffield at home. So I kind of want to have Darwin and Salah for both.
Fair enough.
So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. In terms of this fixture,
Yep.
I think we've seen Liverpool defense look a lot better in some of the bigger games. But yeah, I think it's going to be tight. I see this like a 1-1 kind of thing. Yeah.
Pete?
Yeah, I think that the Copenhagen fixture in the morning is going to tell us a lot because City's basically wrapped up that tie. They're probably like 1 or maybe 2 goals max away just from that being done and dusted. So I would not be surprised tomorrow to see Haaland, Foden, KDB all on ice tomorrow. Like give Alvarez a run out up top. Like they've got more than enough options to take care of that fixture because as Andrew pointed out on our show last night, City won't have a better chance to win at Anfield than they will this week. So Liverpool walking wounded. They're getting bodies back, but they're still underdone. Like Darwin just came off the bench. Diaz has been playing a lot of minutes at the moment. So yeah, I think all attention will be on this fixture for City, but I can see being a bit of a score draw, like a 1-1, 2-2 kind of thing. But yeah, it should be. It's just annoying that it's at 2:45 a.m. for us here. Like that's just that's awful. It's like the worst possible time
on a Monday morning as well.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I know. Like at least put it at like 6 o'clock in the morning. All right, I'll go to sleep and get up and watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'll see. Maybe there is no sleep for the day, but that's a different.
You don't
topic.
sleep anyway. What's
I know
the
that's
difference?
That's a different topic. Andrew, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Pete. Like, I think I can see it being a 2-2 kind of game. I think Liverpool are going to be very happy with a draw. Like, they're the ones that are ahead at the moment. And with the injuries that they have, I think that they would take a draw and run if they could. I'm expecting to see both teams rotating pretty heavily in their midweek games, and then just the full strength as full strength as they can. In this game. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that Man City have had a bit of trouble. Like they've had a bit of trouble breaking teams down recently. Like they got there in the end, but it was only the 1 goal against Chelsea. It was only the 1 goal against Brentford. And they didn't score against Manchester United. Until what minute was it? I can't remember, but it was
6th or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they took a while. So I think away to Liverpool, they might have trouble again. But yeah, so I kind of agree that, maybe a 1-1 draw. Yeah, last night on the show I kind of said maybe 2-2, but more I think about it, the more I think maybe it's going to be more like 1-1, maybe it's going to be a bit more cagey than I first thought.
This is where the whole sell Haaland for Morris kind of also.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. I'm probably just convincing myself that there's not going to be many goals in this game. I'm
It's
so
a nil-all,
I'm so
guys.
transparent. I'm writing narratives in my head as we speak.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, it should be a very interesting game. But this is where I'm like wondering, what do I do with Haaland still? Probably still keep him and see how it goes, I guess. All right, Chelsea versus Newcastle. There was a question from Mira, who plans to take Monday off. Nakasuki at this point because it's a Liverpool game. But she had a question with regards to Petrovic and whether his place is settled. You're going against, I guess, a Newcastle team that is in all sorts of different types of form. I'm not even really sure at this point. They do, however, have a few players coming back from injury. So that might be a slight upturn with their fixtures also improving. How do you see this game going?
I see this game playing out where I end up being disappointed on Tuesday morning. And it's actually Andrew's birthday on Tuesday morning as well. So he'll probably be getting an abusive message from me after I'm cranky. But as far as Petrovic goes, I think he is nailed. He's actually done really well. I cannot stand the sight of Bobby Sanchez. Just watching him the other day in the FA Cup he's putrid. He's just so bad of a keeper. So yeah, Petrovic, I think, has done more than enough to keep the spot there. It feels like a really good fixture for Palmer in this game if he gets the space. But I mean, Pochettino is he's so bad. Like, he's such a bad manager. So this season, up until they played Liverpool and they got spanked, Chelsea had gone into halftime of every single league game, either level or up. And then they just can't close in the second half. So I have no idea what Pochettino does at halftime with the side. Like, his substitutions are bad. Like, his man management, it just seems really poor. He just can't manage. I don't know. I can't wait till he's sacked, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. If they lose this game against Newcastle, I hope he's sacked.
Ooh, big calls.
Bring back Jose for round 3.
I won't be surprised, to be honest, but anyways, yeah.
Pretty much the whole time I've known Pete, he's just been wanting whoever the current Chelsea manager is to be sacked. It's just
I will happily take back Graham Potter over Pochettino. That's the state I'm in at the moment.
Oh dear.
It's a Chelsea DNA. You do well or get out.
Yeah. Frank Lampard, come back again.
Karan, how do you see the game?
Yeah, I agree. Good game for Palmer. Last game he played up front, the false nine kind of thing again. He's an amazing FPL asset, but even more amazing when he plays false nine as opposed to out on the right. I don't really know enough about the tactics to work out which one it's going to be, but I'm definitely getting Palmer on my wildcard. I think he's just too much value for an asset.
Yeah, and Burnley in Gameweek 30 as well.
Yeah, and Newcastle have looked better offensively, but Trippier's out, right? Trippier's confirmed to be out.
Yeah, we think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's confirmed out for this fixture, and I think the FA Cup as well.
Yep. And also Chelsea have like a couple doubles as well coming up, so that's another thing to kind of consider.
Yeah.
And Chelsea seem to weirdly look good against good opposition. Like, they look pretty good against City. Maybe it's just their setup, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Chelsea will win this 2-1, 3-1, something.
I think the Trippier injury is actually really important because I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that what that does is it puts Livramento on the right, which forces them to start Dan Burn on the left, and that's who Palmer's going to be coming up against if Palmer is playing on the right. So yeah, I mean, and I kind of disagree a little bit. I think that Palmer is actually a better asset when he's playing on the right. Because he's just not a natural kind of false nine. Yeah, even though, like, logically you think that playing, false nine should make you a better FPL asset. I don't think it always does. Palmer's probably getting better. When he first started playing false nine, he was actually really bad. But I think he's done better recently. I still like him better on the right though, especially if he's going to be up against Dan Burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps that Jackson's back.
Yeah.
When Palmer was in that isolated false nine role, when Jackson was at AFCON, yeah, he's just so isolated. There just wasn't enough support around him. But now that Jackson's back, he actually does a lot of that grunt work that you need from your forward. And yeah, if Palmer's playing more central, or even like Andrew was saying, out on the right, he has that license to come in. Well, we saw that in the Brentford game, Pochettino played a back three with the wing backs. So Gusto and Chilwell were playing as the wing backs, which let Palmer come in a bit more, and he was probably a bit unlucky not to get at least a goal in that Brentford game. So yeah, signs look good, but it's Chelsea.
Fair enough.
I think you want to buy anyone that's playing against Steinburn
Yeah, that's true.
at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway.
Yeah, talking about players playing against Dan Burn, there's a question about Gusto, and Pete, you also mentioned about it, because he's also still going to come up against Dan Burn as well, most likely.
Yeah.
So there's a question is like, is he a good option going forward? Not necessarily for just this week, but like from game week 30 onwards as well.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned at the top of the show, coming out of, once we get out of blank game week 29, game week 30, they got Burnley at home, which is, one of the best fixtures you can have on paper. And then it's a pretty decent fixture. And I know they've got United at home, but then it's Sheffield United, Everton, and then Brighton. So, and then as you just mentioned, they've got to have a double. They've got to have a fixture against Spurs thrown in there too. They might potentially have another double in 37 if they progress against Leicester in the FA Cup in the next round, which, on paper they should, but it's Chelsea, so they might not. But yeah, so there's the potential for more upside there with the fixtures. And also I can't see Reece James coming back anytime soon. I've seen photos of him like sort of on a running machine with a knee brace on, but I think they have to be really careful with it. It's not going to be like we just see one day Reece James is in the squad. I think it's going to be a slow, steady return.
To be honest, at this point, I'll just tell Reece James to take the season off and just recover.
Yeah, just go on holiday.
Yeah.
This does look good.
Yeah.
He has looked really good, actually. He's probably going to be one of Todd Bowley's one of the few decent signings he's made.
So can I just ask a question about Chelsea? They're likely to have the double in 37 rather than 34? Is that right?
Very good question. Let me actually go to.
I think 35 is their most likely location. Right?
According to this, Chelsea could have a double, potentially either 35 or 36 as well.
Yeah.
And then there is one in 37 as well. Depends, again, like Pete mentioned, depends on how the FA Cup goes as well in 29. And also what happens to like Brighton's fixtures as well in the Europa League as well, because that could affect how Bournemouth doubles. The other thing that could affect how Bournemouth doubles is if like the Chelsea-Tottenham game is moved to somewhere either 35 or 36 as well. So maybe even that specific week, I don't know. I haven't looked into how the team will look like at that point. Maybe some might even think of like a single, like one game bench boost or something if you have like multiple Spurs, Chelsea, and really good single game week fixtures as well.
Yeah, not a bad shout.
So yeah, that's basically it. And then the final game, again, Bournemouth versus Luton. This is where I was thinking like there is no clean sheet on either side in this game.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Morris Solanke showdown. I can't wait. I'm here for it.
This is the money fixture.
2 penalties each.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Morris is tempting, but is it Haaland worth tempting is what I'm not still uncertain on. Because it's an extra transfer as well to kind of bring back in. That's the one, unless you're wildcarding, which you're doing, Andrew, so it kind of helps.
Yeah, I agree. Like I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have the plan to wildcard in 31. It's just with Haaland, he's got that run of fixtures of Liverpool away, followed by a blank, followed by Arsenal. Like if you're gonna go without Haaland for any 3-week stretch, then this is it. This is it. But you do need to have a plan to bring him back, and I'm wildcarding in 31, which is going to help. But if you're not going to do that, or if you can't do that, then it makes it a much tougher decision.
Yep, fair enough. Karan, anything to add?
No, I think Doughty is going to get either 7 points or -2 in this game. So
Pete.
I just love that when this game is on next Thursday, I'll probably be having this as the big screen
yeah,
game when there's Champions League fixtures on. Like that's just how addicted we are to fantasy football.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't even know what next week's Champions League.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan are playing
It's fine.
next
Yeah.
Thursday morning. So yeah, there'll be the share screen
Yep.
going on my laptop, that's for sure.
Yep. Fair enough. Cool. I guess we'll see how it goes in terms of the game week. Fixtures, I think we've kind of touched on it, so I'll skip past this. Doubles in 34, 37. These are the current possibilities, but like we mentioned, right? Chance of Chelsea versus Tottenham moving to game week 35 or 36 is about 48%. And chance of Brighton versus Chelsea moving to 35, 36 is about 32%. So again, depends on like the Brighton's Europa League and then what happens in the FA Cup and all of that. So I guess we'll know more about this come post game week 29 in terms of how the FA Cup results go, how the draw goes as well for the semi-finals. And maybe I'll have a better idea whether I want to wildcard in 31 or even 35. I'm not really sure. But yeah. Anything to add on like potential doubles 34, 37? Or
I think look at the expected number of teams with a double in the yellow.
yes. So expected number of teams 4.16. This is in 34, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 9 and 37.
Yeah, that's what. So it's quite high. That's why a lot of people are thinking bench boost in 37. With 34 being like a free hit, because you might end up with the likes of like Crystal Palace, who have a high chance of doubling here. Then you've got the likes of Bournemouth who could double, Everton, Sheffield United. Do you really want Sheffield United players even though they double? So yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm like, people are like, that's most likely the free hit week. Although, I think Karan will get to this, where you've done a few sims. Even though that is a free hit week, it does come with a share of risk, like how 26, where all the how 25 went in terms of the double, where all the single game weekers smashed it, which is very possible in 34 as well.
Yeah, I think there is a counter argument to that. Like, I think, to your point, some people have said about 29, oh, they're rubbish fixtures. I don't want a free hit in 29. But now we're contradicting ourselves a little bit and saying, oh, because the fixtures aren't as good, 34 is a better free hit week. I think there is an argument that says a double game week with weaker teams is actually a better bench boost week, because those bench boost players that you can bring in are cheaper. So you can, if you're wildcarding in 31, for example, you can have a bunch of cheaper enablers from some of those weaker teams that are going to double in 34. You can have them in your bench boost in 34, and it's not compromising too much the amount of money that you have to spend on your starting 11. Whereas if you bench boost in 37, like there's, as I said earlier, there's minutes risks there, because it's harder to predict players starting and how many minutes they're going to get later in the season, when top four might be sewn up, relegation might be sewn up, people might be they might be safe but no chance of making Europe, and so they're starting to rotate more. So that concerns me, because when you're on a bench boost, you need every single player. So whereas once you get to game week 37, then you'll probably have a pretty good idea of which players are going to be safer minutes wise, and if you're free hitting, then you can just get the players that you are confident are going to start, and there's a lot of good teams doubling to choose from. So that's my thinking. That's why I'm leaning towards actually the opposite. I'm leaning towards bench boosting in 34. I probably won't be getting Sheffield United players, but there are good assets from some of those other teams you mentioned, like Crystal Palace. You've got Eze, you might have cheap defender from Crystal Palace as well.
Oh, there's a 3.9, Richards.
Yeah, Richards, who scored like 14 points the other day, which I don't think he'll ever do again. Like, I think he's probably like Zabani levels in terms of how many attacking returns you can expect. But yeah, I don't know. That's just the way that I've been thinking about it, which is a little bit different to what other people have been saying.
No, fair enough. And like Everton, also you have like Brantwaite 4.2.
Yeah.
Pickford if anyone wants really as a second goalkeeper option. So there are a few options to be honest that are cheap at that price, like from those teams compared to
Yeah.
37. You might want to get the best possible team, but on a wildcard, it's not going to be possible because on a free hit, you could get the likes of like Saka, Salah, Son, Haaland. You could like put it all out there, but on a wildcard, you're going to make some sacrifices somewhere.
Just to add to what Andrew said, the number one thing that I kept seeing when you play with the chip permutations in the solver is that the solver seems to think about what using a particular chip in a game week does to the game weeks around it a lot more than what people do. Because the discussion when we talk about it is always like, how many double game weekers can I cram into this game week and everything. But for the solver, it's all about how does that impact the planning and the EV in the game weeks around it. And to add to what Andrew said, the game week 28 bench boost was the highest EV compared to 34, 37, and 27. I just couldn't do it because I'm playing my wildcard now. But
Yeah.
if you went purely theoretical, that was clearly the best bench boost week. Yeah.
Fair enough. Pete, anything to add on this?
No, not really. One thing that I have randomly thought about the last few days is like all the good teams have good fixtures, right? So if you've still got your wild card, you could potentially you could dead end into 34. I know you mentioned that earlier that you're thinking of doing that, and I've thought about that too. But another option is you keep your wild card up your sleeve till you get to like game week 38. Use it as a free hit.
True, but I don't think my squad will last that long. That's the problem.
Depending on how bad my rank is, by the time I get to game week 37, 38, I may do that.
Maybe use it maybe you walk out in 37. Use that as like a free hit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Save it for next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, just roll it over. Yeah.
The ultimate would be to free hit in 37 and wildcard in 38, like a consecutive free hits.
Yeah.
But, that's got to be a bucket list for 1 year in fantasy, but certainly not this year.
Yeah. I think I was close to it last year using my free hit in 38, and I ended up using it in 37. It worked out great for me. But it's something I've always wanted to do. Like just save it for game week 38 and just go all out.
Maybe on the free hit. I don't know about the wildcard though. It's a very powerful chip.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap this up quickly. Karan, your wildcard draft, you've got Neto, Doty, Gabriel, Ben White, Son, Tavernier, Saka, Palmer, Solanke, Morris, Darwin. And on the bench, you got Petrovic, which you mentioned, Salah, Robertson, and Gusto. What's the thinking process?
So some of these are more locked in than others. I think we've sort of discussed the double guys quite a bit. And I think both Pete and Andrew, I think, seem to agree with me that Bournemouth defense isn't very appealing. It's also quite annoying from a planning perspective. So I think I'm going to go with Tavernier, but I think Pete talked about Kluivert, so now I'm maybe a bit tempted by that as well. But so I think I'm going to punt on Tavernier. I think the other spots in the midfield sort of pick itself for a wild card. Salah, I expect him to get maybe 20, 30 minutes this week. And then after that, so because of that, I'm going to bench him. I think Gusto is going to be a great pick because of all the fixtures yet to be played. White can be Saliba. Then I think Petrovic is nailed, like we discussed. And I think it's a pretty easy pick. Yeah, so Robertson can be a Pedro Porro. And other than that, what's the other notable pick? The other notable thing is the absence of Haaland, right? So my plan is to in 32 go Son down to Foden and Darwin up to Haaland, or maybe even Salah to Foden, Darwin to Haaland. There's a game week where Haaland has Luton and Salah has United away, but United away is not really.
Salah.
That's a good fixture, yeah. So that doesn't feel that great, but Haaland and Foden have Luton at home, so I'm gonna have to find a way to get him by then. I think the thing that I'm quite nervous about, even more than Haaland, is no Watkins. But I just think it's a punt that I have to take because there's the lack of doubles. But
Yeah.
yeah, not having Watkins for the next 3 game weeks is gonna. I think it's literally gonna keep me up at night. Yeah. So.
Fair enough. I think the other thing to mention is what Andrew mentioned before. Probably have, if you're benching Salah this week, maybe you get like a Jared Bowen and play him over Tavernier as well.
Yeah.
That's
No,
another.
I'll
Yeah.
play him over Darwin maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
and yeah, because it would be the Salah spot, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's a really good shout. Yeah, I think Bowen and maybe to a lesser extent Eze, because I'm a big Eze fan. So, but that strategy of, and also that what if Salah's injury gets worse or something like that? So that gives me that option, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. The only
Uh,
I guess the only concern that I would have about that is that then you've got 3 transfers booked in. So you're
Yeah.
not really leaving yourself much leeway for other stuff to go wrong, which it always does.
Yeah.
But yeah, the upside might just be worth it though. It would be very tempting to do that.
Another thing that I thought was quite unconventional, that the solver seems to pick Isaac quite a lot for the 28 wildcard. It's got Chelsea away. Instead of Darwin, the solver was picking Isaac quite a lot. So Newcastle have the 34 double. They have a really good double, and they have like a really good run 30 to 34. And I think whenever Wilson's injured, Isaac becomes a really good pick. And I think Wilson is confirmed out for 5 to 7 weeks or something. So yeah, that was another thing I was tossing up instead of Darwin. But yeah.
The only other question I had is about the Robertson pick. That's a really interesting one. Why Robertson over Van Dijk? Just the attacking upside?
I think EV wise they're very similar, but I think yeah, attacking upside. I think I got a 0-pointer from Robertson last week, and I
So
felt
close. Couple of seconds.
I felt very unlucky because he obviously got subbed off at 59, but he also was in the box quite a lot, and he took quite a few shots. And I think whenever Trent's out, Robertson probably has a bit more of a license to attack. So, and I think Trent's going to be out for what, 3-4 game weeks more. So,
yeah, the only problem is, or the only issue I see is that yeah, he does get that occasional 59 minute as we saw, and he also gets the occasional rest. And when he gets the rest, he doesn't get the full 90 rest. He comes on for Simicast at kind of 65 minutes, so you're at risk of the 1-pointer. So Van Dijk's a much safer option from that point of view because he's just 90 every single game, and he does have decent attacking threat of his own from headers as we've seen recently.
yeah, I think yeah, I'm just being greedy. I think Van Dijk might very well be a more reasonable pick, but you know, my
You got to have
rank's
a
in
bit
the
of fun
bin
on
and
wildcard, don't you?
gotta have a bit of fun. That's it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
Heat, anything to add?
Oh, just seeing Darwin on an FPL side just gives me nightmares. Like I had him from game week 8 till like last game week. It was a nightmare owning him. I know you're a Liverpool fan, Karen.
Oh no, he's
Oh,
not.
no.
He's a United
Oh,
fan.
you're not?
Man United
I
fan,
thought you were a
yeah.
Liverpool fan.
This is the other Karan
No.
Oh,
who is on the channel. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Well,
right.
on our podcast, Pete basically compared Darwin to COVID.
yeah.
So he couldn't get rid of Darwin for that many weeks because there was all these other issues in his team. So he kept on saying that he had long Darwin.
Yeah,
But,
I just could never get rid of him. But yeah, I feel so much better not having him. He's just, I don't know.
That's harsh
He's
to
a
COVID.
frustrating watch.
Yeah, true. I completely understand. It's the full Darwin experience.
yeah.
But he's so important for them, right? Like I think he just creates so much the way he plays. Like I just think it's primarily because I think he's going to get a ton of minutes, more than anything else.
Wasn't that long ago you hit the post, what was it, 4-5 times in the game, missed the penalty,
Yep.
all in one
Yeah.
go.
I mean, you get full Darwin experience when you bring him in. But yeah,
Yeah, strap in.
yeah.
I think I just can't watch the games. I think
Just don't.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
don't watch it.
Yeah.
Just open the FPL app. Okay, he did well.
Yeah, then
two
don't watch
points,
highlights.
yeah. All right. Final before we end. I think you kind of touched on this in terms of the EV not being too different between 29 and 34. This is you base this off like Lego Mane's hop on, hop off graph.
Yeah,
in terms of
so yep, so I can just quickly talk through
Yeah.
it. So fixture probability is the probabilities of the fixtures as we know it based on the betting odds, because that's where the percentages come from. So these are all FPL review sims for 28 wildcard with 2 different location of free hits and the 37 being a bench boost. It's pretty specific to my team, but I thought we could make a point on 29 versus 34 free hit. And I think so scenario, do you have the Lego Miner? Do you want to pull up
Yes.
scenario 1 and 3?
Yep.
So in scenario 1, there's 6 doubles in 34, and in scenario 3, there's 4 doubles in 34. So you would
Yep.
assume scenario 1 is going to be the one where you're going to wish you free hit in 34, then 29. So if you go back to the other chart, yeah, but actually the sim shows that even when both those things happen, they're very close in EV. So what that means is even though the 34 game week might have more EV, like the planning benefit of the 29 free hit is really high, like being able to set up your squad around it really well. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter. There is another, like if you play everything correctly outside of that, it doesn't really matter. So I was agonizing over it for a while, and I looked at this and I was like, okay, do
Okay.
whatever you want.
Fair enough.
So I think that's sort of the takeaway. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess it counts all the moves of like if you don't free hit in 29, you look at those Luton players you're taking out, bring them back in, whereas you have the plus side of the fixtures in 34, so it evens itself out.
Yeah, and also most teams have to take lots of hits to do anything in 29. So once you add those up, I guess there are teams out there who are really well set up for 29, maybe 8 or more players, and for them the 34 thing might be really high.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough. Team dependent, the classic cliche. All right,
Yeah.
cool. We'll end it up. This was when you can play your chips. I still think free hit 29. I've highlighted it as one of the best options, but Andrew has 37. Then 34 might be another option as well for some others. Triple captain, is this the best week to play triple captaincy, or is there like a 34, 37 as an option?
Guys, we didn't talk about the Solanke injury.
Okay, so Solanke, there was a press conference or quote that he came out and said that he might be fine for the upcoming double, and that he'll most likely see that he'll try and play both. Would you still put it on Solanke as a triple captaincy? Quietness.
I think it's, if I don't have it, but if I had it, I think I probably would. I think it's worth the risk just because the fixtures are that good.
Yeah.
He's going to try to play both.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, he'll probably play the first one, which is the best one, home to Sheffield United anyway. And then he'll do everything he can to play the Luton one because that's a relegation 6-pointer if you think that there's any chance that Bournemouth drop down. But I guess Bournemouth will see that as an important game, as Pete said on our podcast yesterday, because it pretty much puts them out of sight of relegation because Luton being down there. So I think he'll do everything he can to play both those games. And just the quality of the fixtures, it might be worth that risk of him having that injury that he's managing.
Yep. Fair enough. All right.
I think I might be tempted to find someone in 34. Just given, I don't know, maybe he plays 30 minutes less than expected in the second game.
Or, hear me out, game week 31, Liverpool at home to Sheffield United, Mo Salah, triple cap.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. Honestly, not a bad shot.
I can see the tweaks his hamstring, comes off at halftime for a 1-pointer.
All right, then Darwin triple captain.
It's not a bad shot, to be honest. 31. Salah. Possible. Probably the best single game week fixture you'll find.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll probably add it on the table next episode now. We'll go to team attack. Last 6 game week. Arsenal on top. City second. Liverpool second. City second, third. Villa fourth. Luton all guns blazing in fifth in terms of last 6 game weeks in terms of attack. At the bottom, we got Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham still at the bottom, but Jared Bowen is doing the business. and Brentford as well. Anything to add on anything that stands out?
Oh, well, the Jared Bowen thing, just to defend my boy.
Yeah.
Obviously the last 4 weeks of that, he was without Paqueta, and that's a huge difference as we discussed. So
Yep.
it was the last couple of weeks, hopefully a better indication of his potential than the last 6 weeks.
Fair enough.
Luton are fifth. Luton
Yeah,
are fifth on this.
Luton have been up there in the top table of these attack charts for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
All right, defense. Arsenal are on a different galaxy, but then the rest of the league, City in second, Crystal Palace third. Very interestingly, which is 3.9. Richards could be a decent option. Brighton, I don't know how Brighton are on this list in top fourth, but they are. Everton. Everton have been here, so I can kind of see it. And Bournemouth. At the bottom, you got Luton. So definitely, you look at the difference between attack and defense. Have no problem about it.
Yeah.
Brentford, United at the bottom as well, and West Ham as well at the bottom. Thoughts? Defense? No, nothing.
That Arsenal number is just ridiculous.
That's
If it
insane.
wasn't for these blanks and doubles, we'd be tripling up at Arsenal right now. I'd love to do it, but yeah, just not team logical for myself at the moment.
You've considered one big chance in 6 games.
That's insane.
Like everyone else,
insane.
apart from Forest, is in double digits.
Yeah.
Just insane. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, looking at those Liverpool numbers, like 17 big chances conceded. And Andrew's just sold Haaland for Morris. Like
Did you see Luton's attacking numbers on the previous
transfers
slide?
that precede unfortunate events.
That's what he's banking on. Luton.
Meme FC.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes next week.
Might have to clip this.
Transfer. Yep, we will. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes in terms of the pictures after this. But yeah, that's basically all we've got. Bit longer than what I thought we'd go for. But shout out to Pete and Andrew as well for joining on. Maybe sometime later in the season, we'll look to try and get you guys on again. And Karan as well. Shout out. Hopefully your wildcard does well. Any final words?
Thanks for having us on. It's always great to chat FPL with you guys. So yeah, had a blast.
Anything to plug as well? Take the opportunity.
I'll plug our show, FPL Side Net podcast. So yeah, you can find us. We recorded last night, so it's in all the usual places, the good and the bad places where you can find us. So
Still fresh.
We are just two guys who love talking about a game within a game. So
there we go.
Where are the bad places?
The dark web.
Yeah. Karan, anything to add?
No, it's been fun, guys. It's been a blast.
Awesome.
And thanks for the insights. I've got something to think about now.
Yep. Indeed. And Andrew, thank you very much as well.
No, thanks for having us. It was had heaps of fun.
Awesome. Good luck to Karan for his wildcard. We'll hopefully a green arrow next week. And thank you to everyone who's been on the chat as well and getting involved. Hopefully this video helped you. There was one final question that I wanted to touch on, which we didn't really touch on during the video, which was instead of Bournemouth mid players like Tavernier in terms of uncertainties, would it be better to jump on the likes of Palmer, who could bag as much points as a double Gameweek player? I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
More security.
Yep. Fair enough. Cool. We'll end it there. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe. We're trying to get to 700 subscribers and 22 away. I have to now go and record a video for Q, for FPL Amateurs Awards. So make sure to go and listen to them as well on Spotify and all the usual places you can find your podcast from as well. And once again, FPL Side Net, thank you very much. Your links will be in the description as well. And I will see you all for a deadline stream on Saturday. Until then, peace out, everyone.